أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. Once again, welcome back to JemeilTv. Let us start and resume our study of Surah At-Taghabun with its period of revelation. Muqatil and Kalbi say that it was partly revealed in Makkah and partly revealed in Medina. Hazrat Abdullah bin Abbas and Atta bin Yasir say that verses 1 to 13 were revealed at Makkah and verses 14 to 18 at Medina. But the majority of commentators regard the whole of the surah as a Medinan revelation. Although there is no internal evidence to help determine its exact period of revelation, yet a study of its subject matter shows that it might probably have been sent down at an early stage at Medina. That is why it partly resembles the Makkah surahs and partly the Medina surahs. Theme and subject matter of the surah. The theme of the surah is invitation to the faith and obedience to Allah and the teaching of good morals. The sequence followed is that the first four verses are addressed to all men, verses 5 to 10 to those men who do not believe in the invitation of the Quran, and verses 11 to 18 to those who accept and believe in this invitation. In the verses addressed to all men, they have been made aware in a few brief sentences of the four fundamental truths. First, the universe in which they live is not godless, but its creator, master, and ruler is an all powerful Allah, and everything in it testifies to His being most perfect and absolutely faultless. Second, that the universe is not without purpose and wisdom, but its creator has created it with truth. No one should be under the delusion that it is a mock show, which began without a purpose and will come to an end without a purpose. Third, that the excellent form that God has created you with and the choice that He has given you to choose between belief and unbelief is not a useless and meaningless activity, so that it may be of no consequence whether you choose belief or unbelief. In fact, Allah is watching as to how you exercise your choice. Fourth, that you have not been created irresponsible and unanswerable. You have to return ultimately to your Creator and have to meet the being who is aware of everything in the universe, from whom nothing is hidden, to whom even the innermost thoughts of the minds are known. After stating these four fundamental truths about the universe and man, the address turns to the people who adopted the way of unbelief, and their attention is drawn to a phenomena which has persisted throughout human history, namely that nation after nation has arisen and ultimately gone to its doom. Man, by his intellect and reason, has been explaining this phenomena in a thousand ways, but Allah tells the real truth and declares that the fundamental causes of the destruction of the nations were only two. First, that they refused to believe in the messengers whom He sent for their guidance, with the result that Allah too left them to themselves and they invented their own philosophies of life and went on grouping their way from one error to another. Second, that they also rejected the doctrine of hereafter and thought this worldly life to be an end in itself, and that there was no life hereafter when they would have to render an account of their deeds before Allah. This corrupted their whole attitude towards life, and their impure morals and character so polluted the world that eventually the scourge of Allah itself had to descend and eliminate them from the scene. After stating these two instructive truths of human history, the deniers of the message of truth have been admonished to wake up and believe in Allah, His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the light of guidance that Allah has sent in the form of the Quran if they want to avoid the fate met by the former people. Besides, they have been warned that the day shall eventually come when all the former and the later generation will be collected at one place, and the fraud and embezzlement committed by each will be exposed, therefore, all mankind. Then the fate of each man will be decided finally on the basis as to who had adopted the path of the faith and righteousness and who had followed the way of disbelief and denial of the truth. The first group shall deserve eternal paradise, and the second shall be doomed to everlasting hell. Then, addressing those who adopt the way of faith, a few important instructions have been given. First, that whatever affliction befalls a person in the world, it befalls him by Allah's leave. Whoever in this state of affliction remains steadfast to the faith, Allah blesses his heart and with guidance. Otherwise, although the affliction of the one who is in confusion or bewilderment turns away from the path of the faith cannot be averted except by Allah's leave. Yet he becomes involved in another, the greatest affliction of all, namely that his heart is deprived of the guidance of Allah. Secondly, that the believer is not required to affirm the faith with the tongue only, but after the affirmation of the faith, he should practically obey Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If he turns away from obedience, he would himself be responsible for his loss, for the Holy Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has become absolved from the responsibility after having delivered the message of truth. Thirdly, that the believer should place his trust in Allah alone and not in his own power or some other power of the world. Fourthly, that the worldly goods and children are a great trial and temptation for the believer, for it is their love which generally distracts man from the path of faith and obedience to Allah. Therefore, the believers have to be aware some of their children and wives, lest they become robbers for them on the way of Allah directly or indirectly, and they should spend their wealth for the sake of Allah so that their self remains safe against the temptation of shaitan. Fifthly, that every man is responsible only to the extent of his power and ability. Allah does not demand that man should exert himself beyond his power and ability. However, the believer should try his best to live in fear of Allah as far as possible and should see that he does not transgress the boundaries set by Allah in his speech, conduct, and dealings through his own negligence. Alhamdulillah, we have completed the study of Surah At-Taghabun. May Allah bless us with the benefits of this surah's teaching and to implement them in our daily life. Ameen. Jazakallah. Please keep in touch with Jameel TV by subscribing it if you wish and want to. Thank you.